Well, no surprises.
Damn. Oh,
Is that
thunder
thunder?
like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We had a thunderstorm down here just recently. I'll be back home tomorrow.
Good evening, Facebook. This is Earl Rush, and I'm here with the Straight Up Talk Show with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, DJ Renzo.
Oh
How are you
God.
today, Renzo?
I am well. I am well. I have made it through this first phase of COVID or whatever. I'm still here. So you're still here. The people watching are still here.
Right?
Thankfully for that. So we're just trying to make it out here. That's all.
Okay. As I was, as we were chatting a few minutes ago, we're just here to have some fun. I don't think I'm no journalist. I don't think I'm a news reporter. That's like, so I'm not going to come up to you and say, "Hey, Renzo, I gotta ask you the tough question." No, I don't have to ask you the tough question. I'm glad that you're here, and we're just here going to have some fun. The first question I would like to ask you, because it's been bugging me for years, I wanted to know: could you tell me, when did we first meet? I thought that it was at the Stuck and Salsa 4 year anniversary at the convention center, but I don't know whether that was after we met down on the street with Mario and Renzo. But I knew you before then, because when you came in,
Yeah.
I said, "What are you
No.
doing here?" So it wasn't then, but I don't know. Did we meet before the anniversary party? I just want to know.
Damn, you're piquing
You don't
my
know when we
curiosity.
first met, do you?
No, I have an idea. I actually do think that because I was trying to remember if that was before the first time I DJ'd. I had actually met you before the first time
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
DJ'd.
Because when
Yeah.
you came to the club, I said, "What is he doing?"
What's he doing up there?
Right? And then Neil said he was working with you. I said, "Okay," and we've been hanging out ever since. But I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to determine when that first time was.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I don't think we officially met the first time because the first time was when you had that party on 8th and over in Chinatown on 8th. It
Oh,
was
okay.
upstairs. You brought Liz Lira and her partner at the time. It wasn't
Oh,
Christian
that's the
Oviedo.
first time we met?
It was
Okay, so
whoever.
that's before the 4 year anniversary. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That was I lived in North Carolina still. I wasn't even that was had to be years before that because I still moved to Chicago for 2 years. Then I came to DC and I met you as soon as I came to DC because Luz at that time brought me to that party at the convention center. So yeah, the first time I would say Beto introduced us when I came to that party where you had Liz Lira upstairs on the 8th floor over on 8th and
Hey,
whatever that is in yeah, 8th and H or 8th and I or something like that. Over by Cuba Libre, where Cuba Libre used to be.
right.
So
It was right
behind
around
there.
the corner.
Mhm.
That was one of our hottest spots. And it was rolling until the owner came to Kelvin and said he found 7 different bottles of beer that they weren't selling
Oh
at the
God.
establishment, and
Yeah.
we had to go.
What was that? What it was up on the it was like upstairs.
It
What was
used,
it? Was it a
used to
club?
be the backside of the old Coco Loco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't upstairs. You was tripping. And you don't even do drugs. That's the funny part. It was
Oh,
never
it was-
upstairs.
damn, I thought it was upstairs.
Okay. Because I remember I saw you dancing at the convention center. And I,
Yeah, yeah.
if you knew all the people there, you knew all the people from Chicago and North Carolina.
Deep.
Now that
Yeah,
brings
yeah.
me to another question that I have for you.
What's up?
I know you were in the military at one time or another.
Yes,
Something.
sir.
Okay. How is it that you got to live in all these different cities? And how many cities have you actually lived in that you can remember?
Okay. When I was in the military, so I'm from California. I'm a Cali boy, LA boy. When I went away to the military at the tender age of 18, went overseas, got all mixed up in the man's wars and all that stuff. But then I ended up in Germany. So I was in Germany for 2 years. Then I came back home to California out at Fort Irwin, which is on the way to Vegas. So in the dusty, arid desert of California out there. And I got out, and then I was still back home for a while. I became an officer in the military at that point while I was in college. while I was at UCLA. Then I went away to Bosnia, some other military stuff. So I was in Bosnia, Herzegovina for a little bit. Came back and my job said, hey, we want to start up an East Coast facility. Would you like to go manage that? And I was like, oh, okay. And I agreed to do that. And so our choices were Baltimore, Charlotte, or Raleigh-Durham. And so I remember we went to all those locations and checked out all kinds of production facilities and warehouses and whatnot. And we ultimately decided on Raleigh-Durham. So that was probably right when I started to catch up with you, because this was September 2004. And so I'm down there hanging out with Beto and learning salsa with Willie Fuego and all those guys. And we would come up to DC quite a bit. And that's when I first started to encounter you then. And so
I love Will Pagan. I haven't talked to Will Pagan in, I say, 10 years. You know, he's a lawyer now. He don't have time for those stupid salsa. He's big time lawyer. But I love that guy.
I give him credit, man. Dude. I give him credit. When he got married, because he used to be all over the place, coming up here all the time, going to New York, because he's a New York guy. But when he got married, I don't know if she made him do it or if he decided to do it, but he said, okay, that's going to be it for all my little travels and all that. I'm going to be a family man. I'm going to be a good husband. And so he just committed himself to that. And he said he retired, is the words he used. But we don't see him around anymore. Good guy, but have 2 kids.
You also lived in Chicago as well. I know that other cities. Go ahead. I interrupted. I'm tripping. Let me let you do one thing at one time. All over the place.
So at that point, that's when our journey began. That's when I met you. Beto introduced us. You may not remember that. It was at that same place we were talking about. And so then I got promoted in my job, and they said, "Hey, why don't you move to Chicago? And we have our, second biggest production facility out there. We want you to go head that up." And so I moved to Chicago, and I had met Leah right before that. I met Christina right before that, I think, when she came to North Carolina for something. So as soon as I got to Chicago, I hooked up with Sekou and all the people over at Descarga Caribe, with Marixa at Latin. I was about to say Latin Rhythms, because they had Latin street dance in there too. So right. not the same thing. So Latin Rhythms, I hooked up with them, and I really started to kind of learn salsa. That's where, with Leah Patterson in particular, taking privates with her, and that's where I really started to kind of pick up on salsa. And so then after 2 years, my job decided that it would be better to have a consultant on our job, decided it would be better to have an engineer in my position, because they were building all kinds of stuff and adding all kinds of stuff to the facility. He was always out there anyway. So they offered me a position back in California. And I don't know. I started to date someone here in DC that you may remember at the time. Name begins with an L, ends with a Z. Okay. So, yeah. Longs. So I moved. I said, you know what? I said, no, I think I'm just going to. She had just moved to DC. So I said, hey, I'm just going to go check out DC for a little bit. I was kind of getting used to being out of California, wanted to travel around a little bit more. And I moved to DC. And that's when we met at that point, fully head on, because she brought me as soon as we came to that event that you're talking about over at the convention center. And then fast forward to my next place, I think I lived in DC for about 8 years. I think I was in DC, and I had just had enough of these winters. And I said, you know what? And I was doing good at the time too. My DJ thing was doing well. I was still ascending. I wasn't plateauing. I was ascending still. And I was just like, but those winters were just rough. And I literally made that decision in November, and I moved to Florida in November. Worked down there with my buddy Frank Fuentes over at Dan South Florida. He's one of the owners of the Orlando Salsa Congress. Moved down there, worked with him for a little bit, but I just hated Miami. I did not like Miami. It just wasn't my speed. I didn't like it. No offense. It just didn't fit my personality. And so my cousin was like, hey man, we're up here in Tampa. Why don't you move up here with us and you can help us babysit all these damn kids. They had 5 kids. And so I moved
You
up to
remember
Tampa.
that? You were taking care of kids.
I know, yeah, man. And so I was the Manny, and that's when on Facebook, that's where all those Manny jokes came from. At the time, I was helping take care of my little cousins, and I was still DJing, still traveling a little bit, still doing congresses. I didn't have as many local gigs as I would, let's say, in DC. And so I was there for about a year and a month, I think it was. And then my cousin got promoted back to California, back to March Air Force Base. And so, and people DC were just like, hey, man, why don't you move back to DC? I think you too. I think you were one of them. Like, hey, man, why don't you just move back to DC? And so I moved back to DC, and that was 4 years
Wow.
ago. Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Renzo. In your wildest dreams,
Uh-oh.
in your wildest dreams, seriously, did you ever think the day that we started that party with you, DJ Neo, and Mario, where
Uh-huh.
for 4 weeks, I think y'all had to pay me money because we didn't make no money. Nobody made any money. Did you think you would go from there to being in almost all the prestigious playing all the most prestigious events in the United States as far as salsa? Did you ever? I know it wasn't one of your goals because I think you just started just to be hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, no. To answer succinctly, I would say no. To get a little more into detail, I would say I've always been a music lover. I've always had tons of music. Even when I was in the military overseas, we would get the music 6 months later in Germany, and I would always buy all these CDs, and I wasn't much of a drinker going out and doing all the stuff some of the other guys did. So I spent my money on music mostly. And so I just fell in love with music at such a I won't say an early age, even before that, but like when I finally got to get my own money and was in charge of my own finances and all that, I can spend all the money I wanted to on music. And that's what I did. I spent a lot on CDs, and I just started to learn music from that point forward. And so I always had that desire to learn more about music. And so then when I got to college, I got out of the military and I got to college, I went and worked in broadcast journalism a little bit. And so I worked on a radio station. And at the radio station, I met another friend of mine, Mr. Gabriel Ruedas. And he was a DJ at the time, and he taught me how to, back on vinyl back in the days, how to mix and beat match and all that stuff. And so I had already had the foundation. I'd already worked at a radio station. I knew how to talk on the microphone. And he taught me how to mix, and I already had the yearning to, learn more about music. And so over the years, let me see, when was that? That was 98, like maybe 98, I think that was. And so, 97, 98. And so I already had all those things, but it wasn't until 2008 when I moved out to DC, and we had a little house party there over at, you remember, I don't know if you made it to this party or not. We had like a little, me, DJ Vino, and DJ Steve Martin threw like a little party of at Joe's Movement Emporium back when.
Yeah. I was there.
Okay, so.
In Hyattsville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I had all those CDs, and then John came to my house, and we had a little house party before we went over to Joe's. And then he was like, hey man, you got a lot of good music. Like, you ever thought about DJing? And I was just like, I hadn't really given it an honest thought. No, especially since 1998. This is 2008. And so it wasn't until he said, I think like maybe a month later, he had a gig that was over. It's called the District or something over there. It was over by the convention center as well. And he was like, hey man, I got to go to Malaysia. He was dating someone in Malaysia at the time for 2 weeks. Do you mind covering for me? And I was like, oh, okay. I'd never DJed before, but I'm like, okay, sure. And so I took all my CDs and went over there. And I remember that's where I actually met Tanya Smith for the first time too. You were there because I know that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that was one of the reasons.
It was a salsa party in DC. I mean, what?
Yeah, yeah. Back in what, 2007? Yeah,
Yeah,
2007. I know you were there.
yeah, anybody was there. For those of you who are listening in and are not aware of DJ Renzo and what he does and how I was raving about the prestigious events that he's played at, he has played at any Stuck on Salsa party he's ever played and we've ever had. He has been there. He has been Mexico with Stuck on Salsa. He has been down the Orlando Salsa Congress. He's been head DJ at the Capitol Congress. He's been the DJ at Aventura, and he's been the DJ at Aventura, LA. I mean, and that's the biggest thing. Aventura is the biggest thing going. And he's at the one on the West Coast and the East Coast. And this is a guy who, when I first met him and I saw him, he had some records in his hand. I was like, what are you doing here? Because I'm like, I know he was a dancer. So, yeah. And I know this sounds corny, but I love it, the fact that I'm so old and I see people when they start from here and they go to there. I know it sounds corny, but
no,
it's been an amazing ride for you. Amazing ride.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm not sure if I fully answered your prior question when you asked that when we went to Geisha Lounge, which is where you, myself, Neo, and Mario decided to embark on this adventure. Yeah, it's like, did I know? No, not really. Like you said, it was just an experimental phase. I was like, well, I DJ'd once already. People liked it. You were there. You liked it. That's why you decided to say, yeah, come on over to Geisha Lounge, because you at least had heard me play once already. It was the very first time.
I had to hear any DJ I play at least once. The only exception was Chris Flores. Jimmy talked me into letting Blanca's husband play without hearing him. And Jimmy talked me into hiring Philly Boy without playing. Okay? Oh,
really?
Yeah, because I love Philly Boy.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard him play.
Yeah.
And Jimmy said, come on, man, give him a chance. Turned out, Chris Flores is an excellent DJ. And Philly Boy's an excellent DJ. So sometimes, even though I think I know every damn thing about DJs, which we both know I don't, I just have my favorites, sometimes I can be wrong. But I prefer to hear the DJ because the only reason people go to my parties is because of the music. They liked Kelvin, but nobody liked me. So if my music was wrong, they just wait for the music to be wrong. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Anyway.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad. Yeah, I knew you knew Roland for a while. So I was like, wait, you had never heard him play before, but I forgot that you knew him as a dancer and as a promoter mostly.
Exactly. Okay. He just started about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
But both times it took my man Jimmy Yoon to convince me. I can't. And guys write me all the time. I want to play for you all year.
Hey, Earl. Quick question. Is this live on your page right now?
It's live on Stuck on Salsa Entertainment.
Oh, Stuck on Salsa. Okay, cool. Because I want to share the link. I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay. So I'm glad that worked out. And we were just experimenting and trying different songs out. You remember how it was. And sometimes we'd have 15 to 20 people in there. Sometimes we'd have 3 people in there.
What do you do, man?
Yeah.
But it's been a wild adventure, and you're such an awesome DJ. And
thank you.
It's not just salsa. You're not a salsa DJ. You are a DJ. You play for hundreds of weddings, and it's amazing. What I like about you is, and Hercules, you know what? Basically, all the DJs in DC, what I really like about you and Hercules, you guys don't take no mess. Lorenzo, have the performance music ready the day before, or Lorenzo, his whole personality changes. He's really a nice guy, but if you don't have that goddamn music ready for performance, but he'd be like to an animal or something. Translation, he doesn't play anything. He's always on time. He knows his equipment. There's several DJs out here. I say, can you fix this? Oh, well, I don't know. They got their hands up in the air. I'm like, wait a minute. The hell am I paying you for? You don't know how to fix shit. Well, you don't have your own speakers, but we're not going to go into that. You have your stuff together, and that's why I like it. I guess it's your military background. Renzo has everything detailed. He needs everything written down. He has everything planned out. And that could be the reason why a lot of people use it, because you have your shit together.
Yeah, it's you know, being a salsa DJ, because people ask me this all the time. Being a salsa DJ, being a bachata DJ, zouk, kizomba, all of that, all the four main dances that we know here. You know, it's hard to distinguish yourself from another DJ because we all have the same amount of access now in the advent of the internet and YouTube and being able to just grab videos, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. Everybody has access to music. It's not like back in the old days where the records, you really had to go digging to get these records and stuff. And so, you know, there's when people ask me, you know, how do you make it, or how do you do it, or how do you distinguish yourself? I mean, that's really one of the ways that you have to do it, is by, number one, being dependable, you know. And so I've seen DJs show up late, show up drunk, or get drunk during their sets and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just you just can't do that, because what happens is, you know, lucky for me, when I started doing it in 2008, I still had a job, a full-time, you know, job at the time. And I lost that job at the beginning of 2010. And once I decided to commit myself to this full-time, at that point, that's when you become a professional. Like before, I was just moonlighting, and I thought to myself, hey, if I don't get another gig, I don't care. I still have a job, you know. But once I started to, this was my main thing to do, then you have to commit to it like it's your profession. And that's exactly what it becomes. And that's what I decided to do with it. I decided to learn all different genres of music, not just salsa, because I learned really quick. As soon as I became a salsa DJ, the first thing somebody asked me was, hey, I got a wedding coming up. Can you do my wedding? And, you know, I'll admit, the very first one I did, I probably wasn't, you know, well, actually, no, the first one I did was Will Pagan's wedding. Actually, I wrote that with Jose Rodriguez, one of your other favorite DJs. Yeah. Yeah, that was back in 2008, May of 2008. So I had been DJing for like 5 months.
He had both of you guys at his wedding?
Yeah. Yeah. And Vino was there too. Yeah. I mean, because, you know, weddings, what happens with weddings, and this is why I always tell people, even if it's two salsa people getting married, like you only end up playing like maybe 5 to not even 10 salsa songs throughout the whole night, because they invite all their family and friends, and there's so many different people there. They don't want to hear salsa music, and they don't want to stop watch you do your tricks and turns and turn patterns and all that stuff. So Jose was there, and Jose handled the bulk of that. I was just learning about equipment because they had a band and they had other people plugging into the board and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, I was just learning about all that. And then I got to play my little set too, and I played mostly salsa. I wasn't mixing. But then very shortly after that, and let me tell you something about people in the salsa community, or just maybe people in general. When they hire DJs, they would prefer to hire a DJ that they know, number one. Number two, that they've at least, like you and I were talking earlier, have heard play before. So they know for sure that you know how to talk on the mic, you know how to, you know, have the volume coming out good and all that stuff. Like you at least know what you're doing. Now, the problem is a lot of them don't realize that, hey, you're just a salsa DJ or just a bachata DJ. Can you mix and can you carry a party where people don't want salsa and bachata music all night long? And so, but still, they will ask one of those DJs first. And so I got asked right away, like right out the gate. I'm doing weddings, and it was a little scary. You know, you got someone, it's their special day, and you out here moonlighting and experimenting and stuff like that, you know, on someone's sort of special day. But luckily, I made it through those first like 5 to 10 weddings, and then I got pretty good at it. And here I am today, over 50, getting close to 60 weddings now.
Wow.
Yeah. So just a completely different field though. But that's why I think, like you said, that's what people look for the most. What distinguishes you from another DJ? Because if you listen to some of these DJs, they play a lot of the same music. They play a lot of the same kinds of music, a lot of the same songs even, you know. And so what distinguish? Why should I hire you versus hiring the other guy? And so then they start digging into those secondary characteristics: dependability, competence. Like you said, if the music stops, will the DJ know what to do? You know, they're going to stand there looking like a deer in the headlights, or will they know immediately, like, you know, what problem solving techniques to use to get the problem solved? Because once the music stops, the party stops, man. So, like I said, professionalism and resourcefulness. They want to know that if someone comes up to you like you do sometimes and go, hey, man, hey, throw some go-go music for me real quick. They want to know that you can be able to do that, you know, or, hey, the party's, we're going to turn up real quick. Like, we got to get away from salsa. The owner asked me to play, hey, can you play 10 minutes of dance music for his other patrons that are here, you know? And so you feel confident in saying, oh, hey, can you turn up for a little bit for about 10 minutes and then we'll get back to salsa. Yeah. They want to know. That's what they want to know. They want to know when they hire somebody, can this DJ do that? Or are they just a person who knows salsa really well and can just press play for salsa songs, which anybody can do. So.
Well, okay. I know how you got to Chicago, and I know you went to LA. I know about DC. How the hell did you make so many connections down in Atlanta with Maya and all those people down there? All those
Atlanta.
I love it. People down in Atlanta.
I love Atlanta. Oh God, it's funny because you're right. I've DJed for at least 4 different people in Atlanta. Jimmy Rumba. What's her name when she was down there? Joby Brava when she was down there. Al and Nia, of course. Mm-hmm. And there was one more. I know I'm forgetting. Sheila. No, I have not DJed for Sheila, actually. She's wanted me to. I was supposed to come down with you when you went, what, in October?
Well, I kept telling Sheila, I'm going to bring you down there. She in love with Stephen Green now. So
yeah, that's cool.
You're not pressed, so it don't matter.
Yeah. So it's 3 then. I thought it was 4. I thought it was somebody else that maybe moved. But what happened is, let me see who. So Jimmy brought me down early, and I got to kind of know people. And then I went to the Atlanta Salsa Congress, I think a while back, and I met some other people. I met Maya, incidentally, Maya Garner. Hello, Maya, if you're out there, in Chicago. I met Maya when I was in Chicago. She's good friends also with Winston Glass. And so she was there hanging out. We met at an event. Winston introduced her to me. There's a picture of us on Facebook still with me like laying, it was a pajama party or something like that. Me laying across her lap and just acting silly. And so since I made that connection with her, I forgot how I ended up down there for something. But then Jimmy Rumba brought me down for something. And then I think Joby, when Joby moved down there from LA, she brought me down for something. I already had known Joby from before. And so then at that point, I think Al and Nia met me. I don't know how maybe somebody recommended me. I'm not sure how they got a hold of my information. I kind of had met them already, but just briefly. And so when they redid the Flavor Invasion, when they rebooted that, they brought me down for that. And then I don't know. I always feel like family. When I go to Atlanta, it feels like the same thing when I go to Tampa. It feels like the same thing when I go to Raleigh-Durham. It just feels like a small community, but very family-oriented type of a thing. And they really take care of me. So I was like, what is there? And it's Atlanta. I mean, what is there to hate about that?
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I have something. What I don't like about Atlanta, there's goddamn 35 Peachtree streets down there. You know?
Peachtree Center, Peachtree Lane, Peachtree Circle, Peachtree Boulevard, Peachtree Mall. They like them some Peachtree. But yeah, I like Atlanta. I really like Atlanta. Do you like it?
I like Sheila Sampath. I like Jimmy Rumba. I like Maya, Rick Greenfield, Al, Rick's wife. Should I say Sheila Sampath? Okay,
you did.
My man's down there. Yes. By Tiffany, the ones that I know personally. In general, I don't like Atlanta. No, I don't like Atlanta at all. Oh. But I have good friends down there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So let me ask you, they're crazy down there. I had bad experiences down They had some crazy people down there. What was that crazy boy's name down there?
Gotcha.
What was that boy's name? That man's name? You know, the one that was Marcel or whatever? You remember Marcel?
Oh,
Anyway,
Marcel. I remember the name.
Don't worry about him. We talking about you today. We ain't talking about some I had with somebody down in Atlanta. But anyway, move on. So, how did you and the other man, Mr. Legend, Shaka Brown, become so daggone tight? How did that happen?
Oh, okay. It's funny. This also has its origin in Chicago. so many of my DC, my other connections ended up like in Chicago. Like I said, that was when I was really starting to really get on the scene, but not as a DJ yet, but as as a dancer and just being and learning about people. And so what happened was I ordered, and it's funny, it's awkward now because I still have them all. I ordered all 4 of Shaka's first CDs. One of which was a VHS tape. The one with Griselle was a VHS tape. And so I ordered all of his CDs, and then I don't know what it was. I ended up calling him or calling the number, which was his cell phone number at the time, inquiring about, me, I'm just very thorough about things. I wasn't sure about giving all my money, and PO box or whatever it was. It just seemed suspicious. And I was like, and I called the number. And so I called the number. And I'm like, so, I paid this money, blah, blah, blah. Are you sure I'm going to get the stuff? Everything's on the up and up. And he's like, sure. He's like, he just assured me, Shaka in his calm demeanor. Yeah, sure, yeah. And so I was like, okay. And so that was when he remembers that too. To this day, we laugh about that story. And so then I ended up moving to DC let me see, that had to have been about a year later, maybe a little bit over a year to a little bit over a year later. And I was dating someone at the time who danced for his dance company. So I got to know him a little bit more that way through the interactions. And I started going to the socials, the Clavicazzi socials when they were at the Firehouse.
Wow.
Back when they were at the Firehouse. And then when they were over on New York Avenue at the other place, that art, the second floor place over there. And so, got to know him through that. And then, I don't know, we just kind of became friends. And then when I started DJing, let me see, that was 2008. And so I think I went to the Congress that year, but I went to the Congress the next year as a DJ. And then I remember after that, he hired me. He wanted me to be the head DJ after that. So that was 2010, I think. Same thing. He liked my professionalism, and he liked how I took care of things and sort of, proposed solutions and stuff like that to problems. And so we've been buddies ever since, man. And then let me see, when did we ended up, when he moved down to Florida, probably, I don't know, 2012 or 13 or something like that. So he moved to Florida. Yeah, it had to be 12. And so then I ended up moving down to Miami as well. As I told you, I hated it. But, we kind of continued down there, our friendship. And then when he moved back to DC, we both were thinking about moving back to DC right around the same time. And so he suggested that his stepdad's place was going to open up, and that his mom would prefer, somebody living there that, she knows and felt comfortable with and whatnot. And so he suggested that, hey, man, let's just move in over here. Mm-hmm. And we've been roommates ever since. So, awesome. And yeah. So
Shaka's a good dude, man. Really.
Yeah, man. Good people. And we've been roommates for the last 4 and some change years. And he's probably one of my better, if not my best bud at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk to him, tell him his microphone's still over here. I think he forgot about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that dude has so many microphones. He probably don't even miss it. He's got so many microphones.
No, it's a real good mic.
Oh, is it? Shaka, if you're listening, come get your mic from this dude.
I needed to make an impression for some of my first private online classes, so he hooked me up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He told me he was going over helping you out with that. Oh, good.
So
Good,
what
man.
made you get into salsa dancing? I know you half Spanish, half black, half whatever. Have you been dancing most of your life salsa, or no? You said
No.
down in North Carolina. What made you get into it now?
Okay, so yeah, that's an excellent question actually. And so when I was a senior in high school, my girlfriend at the time, Puerto Rican, and she was just like, "Look, you need to know how to dance salsa. That's what's your problem?" I had no interest. I was a hip hop guy. I had no real interest in it. And so she she tried to like teach me the very first steps of it. Maria, thank you very much. And of course, I was stepping all over her toes. And so that was what 1991. Yeah, 1991. And so up until that point, I didn't pay it any mind after that. But then one day when I was at UCLA, I was back in my apartment and I was listening to, was it Power 106 or yeah, I think it was Power 106. And they had Grupo Nietzsche was live in concert at the Hollywood somewhere close by at a venue. And I heard it on the radio and I don't know what it was. It was live. It just resonated with me. And I was just like, oh man, this is dope. This is what my aunt was telling me about all the time. You need to connect with this. And I just blew it off and was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I like hip hop. I like hip hop. And so I had blown it off for so long. And so then when I heard Grupo Nietzsche, and I remember the song too, was Han Cogida la Cosa. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. And so then a girl in my back over at the dorm I used to be at, she was a African American girl, and my roommate at that time was Nicaraguan, and I remember she liked the Latin guys, and so she got a group of us all together. Said, "Hey, let's go over to the Wooden Center. They teach salsa. They got a salsa class over here." And so I was like, I joined the group. I went over there, and it was a huge class too. It was like one of those like what do you call them? Not extracurricular, intramural, but like just on a college campus type class. People are just having fun, trying to do whatever, and so but it kind of stuck with me. And so that group of us, we got together and the next week we were like, hey, let's go to the Conga Room. So the Conga Room is a real popular venue in LA for Latin musicianship and dancing too. They had some dance nights out there too. And so we all got together and went out there and it was Pete Escovedo and the band. And so a lot of people don't know who Pete Escovedo is because a lot of people don't know what the E stands for in Sheila E's name. So it's Escovedo. And so Pete Escovedo is Sheila E's dad. And so Sheila E's dad was a band leader for many, many years and used to gig with Tito Puente back in the days. And so we went to see them and Sheila E was there as well. And I was just so geeked about that whole experience that it really stuck with me. And again, they had a class before to teach people salsa, and then it just kind of stuck with me. I took a couple privates. That's when I got Joby Brava's VHS tape, not CD, VHS tape. And I also got Josie Neglia's VHS tape.
Whoa!
Yeah, Josie Neglia. I went to her, the crazy story, I went to her penthouse over in Long Beach, not knowing it was her penthouse, to pick this thing up. I went all the way up to the 15th floor. And lo and behold, somebody opens the door and it's this blonde looking lady. She had a little augmentation there on the breasticles. And I'm like, I'm looking at she hands me the probably VHS as well. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, oh, snap, that's her. Like, I thought I was going to get it from some wholesaler or something like that. But it was Josie Neglia. And I got the CD from her, and I took some lessons with Teresa Garcia. I think I bought 4 lessons, but then I moved. That's when I moved from LA, and I came to North Carolina. And then when I got to North Carolina, I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to go for it. All those other things I just told you about really inspired me to really, really dig a little deeper. And so when I got there, I think I went on the internet, free for a package lessons, private lessons, Willie Fuego, and I'm just like, okay, Willie Fuego. That sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And so I went over. I called him. He said, yeah, I got 4 private lessons, and I remember Will asked me my very first lesson. He goes, all right, so what do you want to learn? On 1 or on 2? And I go, what? Huh? And he says, okay, on two it is. And so he taught me on two from the beginning. And so I learned on two from the start. I didn't even know how to dance on one for years. I had to finally, kind of give it a go and see if I can feel it because I had learned on two. And then later on, I took classes with Beto over at, what was that place? Montas.
Josie Neglia, you heard her, maybe you didn't look at her VHS and she was dancing on one.
Yeah. To be honest with you, like when I had hers and when I had Joby Bravas and Salsa, the Rumberos and all that, when I had I wasn't really paying attention to the timing necessarily. I still didn't know what on one was because it was so standard that they didn't say, oh, you're learning on one LA style. They didn't say that. They were just like, okay, here are the steps. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So I'm like, okay, I just thought those were salsa steps. Right. It wasn't until I got to North Carolina until Will broke that down to me that I was like,
right.
Yeah. And so the rest is history, man. You know the rest from there after Beto and those guys and the Cobo brothers down there.
Oh my God. You know what? And I love DC. And we have awesome instructors. Shaka, Irene, CC, all of them. Well, I got to tell you, I'm pretty straightforward. The Cobo brothers and Beto, they kept that community tight. I actually think they had, at the time, and I'm talking about, I hate to admit it because we had a great scene, but those North Carolina girls, the Cobo brothers and Beto had those North Carolina girls together.
Yes.
I mean, I think there was a time to me that North Carolina social scene was better than DC's, even though we had a lot more instructors.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe because their scene was smaller or whatever, they didn't have nothing to do with dance, either go to the Cobo studio or Beto's. But those girls have always been tight. Always been tight down there.
I have my theory because I've lived down there and I'm familiar with both Mambo Dinamico and the Cobo Brothers Dance Company. And you're right. It's a small, succinct community, and the dancers per capita that they churn out down there follows in particular. I didn't know how they did it, but I think I have a small inkling of just an idea. If you know anything about Raleigh-Durham, you know that there's a lot of colleges and universities in that area. And so what they do is, I don't know if they purposely go to these places to look for, dancers to sort of broaden their horizons a little bit. But, a lot of these girls that they get, or these follows that they get from those college campuses in particular, is where they end up getting them. And they end up taking these dancers who already have backgrounds in dance and modern dance, jazz, whatnot, ballerinas, whatever, they've got some kind of foundation with dance already. And so these guys usually take those women, because most of the ones I think about, Isabel and Adriana and all, who I don't know about, like Samantha Erskine and the ones that danced with the Cobos before, but I know Aaron and Isabel and all those girls had some kind of dance. Isabel, and Aaron Leisure and Isabel Freiberger.
Do I know them?
You don't remember? Yes.
Yeah,
No, I was asking.
Yeah,
of course you know them. So so girls like that. Yeah. And Adriana, who danced with Beto, and the girl who danced with him not too in the recent past, that I forgot her name. And there's another little small girl dancing with him now. These girls have formal dance training, and because I'm thinking, if you think about it, the people that run the two biggest schools down there are guys. So there's Beto, and then there's the Cobo brothers. So how are they churning out such great follows and teaching spin technique and all this? Well, they're getting people who already have formal training, and they're honing that from the salsa perspective. They're teaching them about the Latin. They're taking all that formal dance training that they have, and then, giving them an introduction into the Latin world, So that's why I think the transition is pretty good. And then what happens is, once people on that scene see those people performing and representing their community on a national/international scale, they become very motivated. And so those guys get all those people in the dance schools, at least back in the days, that were really genuinely interested in learning how to dance. I'm not talking about just the social dance. They wanted to get on the stage. And so when they got those dancers and sort of, tweaked some of their fundamentals and taught them the Latin dance world, I think it just motivated so many more of the girls to sort of follow in suit. That's my theory on that.
I was a funny story about Beto. You know, I'm old and senile, so I may have written it on Facebook. I may not have. We were having great stuck on salsa parties. From the beginning, we got lucky from jump.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kelvin was having rooftop parties on Penthouse, and we were rolling. But I went down to North Carolina, I think it was 2004, Monterey Lounge.
Montas Lounge, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Beto changed my whole way of thinking. Kelvin was always a big thinker of the group, but once I went down there, Beto changed my life. He's the one that made me step up my game. He had an event down there with Anna and Joey.
And Joey, yeah, I was there.
And Victor and Brigitte.
Yeah.
And Julio Perez was down there with me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, the party was just crazy. Okay. Uh-huh. I mean, Beto knows, and the Cobo brothers both, they know how to have a party. Mm-hmm. After that event, I said, I got to do something like this. And that's when Kelvin and I started bringing groups. But if it wasn't for me being down at Beto's party, so I guess it was my inspiration to step up my game, because it was one of the best parties I'd ever been to. And that was when I saw Victor and Brigitte, they performed, Asa Machete or whatever. I can't explain this.
Acha Machete, yeah.
That's when I saw them pronounce that. And that's my all-time favorite performance as well. And I've seen a lot of them. But, yeah, Beto he inspired me. I'm not going to lie. Let me ask you this, Lorenzo, while we're talking about inspiration and things. Why do you think that artists have selective memory and they fail to acknowledge people who really helped them out or taught them? They may have eventually gone on to some superstar and say, yeah, well, I learned from him. I'm like, no, you don't learn from that person. You learn from this person. Why do you think it's a failure to acknowledge people?
I don't know. It's like some people, sometimes they may have a hard time even saying that somebody inspired them. There's a difference between someone who taught you versus someone who inspired you. Like, you could have someone teach you something and they may not be your inspiration. Someone else may actually be your inspiration. So I think maybe there's a disconnect between that sometimes. But then also, kind of like when the student becomes a teacher type thing, maybe the student just has a little bit of a problem acknowledging that the person that they've surpassed at that point was once their inspiration. I don't know why and how. To me, like you said, you can still acknowledge whoever the superstar person is that you think that inspired you. You can acknowledge people in steps. You can say, hey, before I even knew anything, this person here who now I realize isn't that great necessarily, but they at some point, I thought they were great and they were my inspiration to even get started. Because I've seen that happen with people where the first couple people that they saw dancing salsa, you realize later on, wait a minute, they're not that good. You actually see some people that are good and you go, wait a minute, they're not that good. But at the same time, you can still, in a professional way, acknowledge that, sequentially. Like, first, this person inspired me to even come to a salsa class. And then once I got to the salsa class, yeah, sure, I went down next door and I saw the Cobo brothers down there, and then I really got inspired, and then, or whatever, So I don't know. It's I think it's a little bit of a ego thing. Like what I said, when the student becomes a teacher, they have a problem reaching back and sort of saying what their inspiration. But I never look, even though I don't DJ for you. Let me see, you, Vino. Who do I always give my credit to? You, Vino, Tanya and Tommy are really who I give a lot of my credit, and Shaka, of course. who I give a lot of my credit to, which is very ironic because here in this Latin world, I know you've seen a lot of these discussions lately. In this Latin world, the people that have given me the most opportunities have been Black folks. So like, here we are. But I, you know, I always, every time someone asks me, and even I don't know if you were going to ask me, even if you were or weren't, I will take this time right now to say that sequentially, my motivation or the people that have given me, opened the door for me to be where I am, and are just the people that I just named. First, it had to be Vino, DJ Vino, and DJ Vino is a contemporary of mine. So a lot of people have a hard time acknowledging their contemporaries, whether they're better than them or not, or not as good as them. They have a hard time doing that, but I don't. I acknowledge that he was the first person to say, "Hey, man, you should, yeah, you got a lot of good music. You should DJ." Then later on, "Hey, do you want to cover for me while I'm in Malaysia?" Boom. Then you, who goes, "You know what? This guy's a dancer. I know him as a dancer. I see him with these CDs. What is he doing?" Like you said, what is he doing? But I'm going to give him a chance, and at that point, same thing with Tanya. When Tanya saw me and you convinced her later to, "Hey, you need to have Renzo and Neo, my boys from Geisha Lounge."
But Mama was crazy back then. It was crazy back then. Yes. When you were in, Renzo, I said, "What are you doing here?" And Neo said, "He's with me." That's it. That's how it works. If I'm with someone and you're with them, then you're with me. Yeah. So that's another reason why you're so successful. You have the ability to establish relationships with people. As you say, everybody has all the same records.
Yeah.
But and I'm not taking away from any talent, but you know how to smooth, you know how to schmooze, you know how to establish relationships. And success sometimes is all about relations. I mean, I think you know more people than I do. I don't know about that, but you know a lot of people.
Been in the game for a minute, man.
you can have the skills, but if you can have the technical skills, but if you didn't have the people skills, you wouldn't be playing at Aventura, the biggest event in the world. You wouldn't be playing at Aventura, LA, or Orlando Congress. I mean, you playing at events besides DCBX, you're playing at events. The events you're playing are some of the few events that are left that make a profit. Orlando, they ain't lose no money. It's crazy now. Yeah. People go down there just so Jerome can make a video with them, Okay.
Pool party video. Yeah.
Aventura Cruise ain't lose no money.
Yeah.
the West and the West one may not be as big as the one in Florida. They ain't lose no money. You play for DCBX. DCBX ain't lose no money. The only people you play for losing money is stuck on salsa, but that's a whole nother story.
Jesus.
So, Renzo, let me tell you what. I get these emails all the time. Why do you have Lorenzo play for you? He's crazy on Facebook. I'm like, first of all, Lorenzo and I are friends. Two, is he crazy? I don't really even follow Lorenzo like that, but I could give a rat's ass what he plays on Facebook. I need Lorenzo to move the crowd. I don't care about my personal Facebook stuff, all the stupid stuff I put on Facebook. I'm going to judge somebody for some stuff. I can care less about that. Lorenzo going to play that fire. He's guaranteed fire. I got another question I'm going to ask you before you go. We're going to wrap this up. Have a couple more. I want you to tell the people what kind of shows you got going on. You got interviews, you got relationship shows, you got DJs. Let the people know what you're doing and how they can reach you as well.
Okay. So I obviously COVID slowed a lot of our gigs down. So for the last 4 months, I've had a lot of time to sit and kind of think about different things to do, but I'm always trying to diversify my portfolio. I just don't want to just be a salsa DJ. I don't want to be known as a salsa DJ. Thankfully, a long time ago, my roommate and good buddy Shaka Brown told me when I thought about having my first name be DJ Mambo Lorenzo. He told me to not do that. Don't pigeonhole yourself by calling yourself DJ Mambo Lorenzo. Thank you, Shaka. Some of the best advice. And so it's just DJ Renzo now. I do whatever and however, not just mambo music. And so, to me, this COVID thing has been a little bit of a blessing in disguise, really, because this has really forced a lot of DJs to figure out different ways to stay relevant, different ways to practice your craft, and different ways to reach your audience, And so, to me, first and foremost, I love all different kinds of music more than just salsa. So what these live streams that I've been able to do, and I've found people amongst the litany of people that I know, I've found people that they want to hear more than just salsa. They have diverse taste in music, and they like hip hop, they like R&B, they like old school, they like 90s music, they like 80s music. And so that's what I've been doing. Since I already have a pretty decent knowledge of a lot of that music already, I know how to mix it, I know how to go in and out of it. So not having a live audience in front of you and DJing on a live stream is a little bit of a different animal. I like it. I actually prefer it because if you're over in the chat room, people are communicating. Now you really know what the people think. Every song that you play, someone has a comment about it. They have a memory of it. So, and I like that. I like to hear that because when you're DJing and you got a crowd, all that you see is that they're either dancing or not dancing. That's what you see. You don't know if they're happy with the music that you're playing or just out there going through the motions. You know what I mean? But with this live streaming theme, people have really gotten into the chat. It's more about the vibe and the ambiance that you're creating. And so that's another feather in your hat as a DJ. You learn to DJ for a different crowd of people with a whole different MO. And so, and I've gotten to know a lot of the people that come out to our dance events all the time. I've gotten to know them better as people as they sit and communicate in the chat room. And you find out when they, whatever, lost their first job, lost their virginity to this song or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Some of it's TMI. Yeah. But you learn a lot about these people. And I've really enjoyed that ride. So even when this thing starts back up again, I think I'll still try to maintain some kind of virtual presence with my DJing because I want to DJ. And it's another way of marketing yourself too. People go, oh God, I didn't know Renzo could play 2000s, 90s, 80s music like that. I didn't know he could play house music. I didn't know that. And so now they know that because all they see is me playing salsa music all the time. They're not at the weddings that I do. So I've been doing that. And I've also been, trying to learn some IT stuff because I understand I won't be able to do this, forever. I'm pretty successful now doing it. Luckily, I had a pretty good nest egg saved up and I'm not hurting. But I do need to get back to work at some point. I'd say that savings account's taking some punches to the ribs a little bit. And so, and I get a little bit of money doing some of this virtual stuff sometimes, but I want to get out. I'm going to work on creating my website so that I can take all the stuff, all that crazy Facebook stuff that people are telling you about and that you know about too. I want to take that over to my personal website. People tell me all the time, Renzo, you should start a blog. And so I've been a little reluctant to do that. But now that I'm going to start on this website, I think I'm going to take all that stuff over to my website, find some kind of way to monetize what I do and not have to depend on lifting heavy speakers and stuff like that, going out all the time. And then I can be a little bit more pickier about the events that I do. So that's what I've been doing. And just doing what I always do, really. Right before you reminded me that we had this tonight, I was digging through music, man. Just digging through 70s and 80s music because as a open format DJ, which is what I am, and which I want people to know, I am a open format DJ, which means I DJ whatever. You got to stay on top of the game. You got to know all the new stuff. You got to stay on top of what the old stuff resonates with people. So that aspect of what I do will never stop. So I'll always be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Lorenzo, do you dance traditional bachata or sensual bachata, or what style do you prefer?
So I am what people would call. I'm not really a bachata guy to begin with, so I'll throw that out there. Musically, I like it. I think it's it's a bit of a simple music. I'm not in love with it. It doesn't grab my soul. But when it comes to all forms of music and dance, I tend to always be a little bit more of a purist or a traditionalist. So I'm going to probably enjoy more traditional kizomba, traditional bachata before salsa romantica came out, that sort of big band salsa that that I like that. And Zouk, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. But yeah, long short story, long story short, I tend to prefer traditional of anything.
Renzo, I think we out.
You think we got? You
Yeah,
think we covered it?
that's right. I only got it scheduled to 10.
All
Renzo,
right.
it was a fabulous interview. Thank you so much for coming out, and we'll have you on the sports show when I can catch up with you because we need another.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, man. Let me know when you're ready to talk about them 49ers, them Lakers, them UCLA Bruins. Let me know when you're ready to talk about all that.
Thank you so much, Renzo.
All
I'll
right.
talk to you
Thank you,
later.
brother.
All
All right,
right.
man. Thanks.